This is a skills video. I'll be showing you how to create a part based on another part. In this case, I'm bringing in a bearing. I'm going to create a new assembly. Most of the work that we'll do is within the assembly. New assembly, and now it's waiting for me to place my first part. In this instance, I'm only going to place one part. I'll browse for it. I know that it's out there. It's called slide bearing. I'll open it and place it into the assembly ready to be referred to. The goal here is to create a plate, a three-dimensional plate, that will allow me to attach to the bottom surface. I'll click on it here, and that it will have holes that line up with the existing holes in the bearing, and will have a cylindrical through hole for yet an additional shaft that in this arbitrary requirement I need to hold and control. So here I am with my part. Let's go ahead and insert a new component. But before doing so, and this is an important thing to remember, when you are creating a brand new assembly and are going to create new parts that relate to existing parts, the first thing you should do is to do a file save. Otherwise you will have difficulty later on with having those parts be related to and in context with the assembly that you're working on now. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'll call it very simple assembly. I had done this before, so here we go, and yes, I'll replace it. So now here I am with an assembly. Right now it's pretty simple. It just has the one part in it. Let's go ahead and create a new part that's related to it. So I go to Insert Components, New Part, and it's waiting for me to select a plane or surface that the new part will be relative to. I'm going to make it relative to this surface here. As soon as I click there, the new part shows up in the tree, and I can begin to create it. I'm going to right click here and give it a name. I'm going to save part in external file. I'll click here twice and call it simple bracket. Spell it right now. Here we go. C-K-E-T. Okay, fine. Leave all the defaults, and now we are ready. Notice that the name shows up as simple bracket in the tree. If you look at the context, you'll see that we are currently in a sketch. The first thing SolidWorks does when you do this action is to create a part and to start a sketch. If you want to have a sketch in a different plane after the fact, you can exit the sketch. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. Mainly because what I really want to do is to create a feature, which is an extruded boss base. I'm going to be using the same plane as before, but by clicking on Feature Extruded Boss Base, it will do a two-step. It will create a sketch, and after the sketch is saved, it will then ask me for information on the extrusion. So it's kind of a nice shorthand. Here we go. I'm going to select this plane. We're now back in a sketch. The first thing I'll do is to create a corner rectangle. If I need to scroll in, I can look in, click on a corner, and start dragging down and away. I'm using my scroll wheel to give me a closer view, and I click there. So now I have a rectangle, and I can accept it by clicking OK. The next thing I want to do, because I need to be able to mount this to the bearing, is to convert entities. It's a function up here. I'll convert entities, and I'll click on each of the circular holes. I'm not clicking on the surface, I'm clicking on the edge of each of the holes. Notice they highlight when I hover. I click 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all selected. I click on OK, and now I have an outer rectangle with 4 circles. That's pretty much it for this stage of the part creation. So I'll click on OK. And notice I'm taken directly to the Boss Extrude Features dialog. I'm going to make it a 1/4 inch thick. So here we go. Backspace over 0.1, make it 0.25. The units are inches, that's okay. It will preview it. When I click on OK, it accepts it, and here I am with the beginnings of my new part. This is good. If I were to close out and come out of the editing of the part, now I'm back in the original assembly, and I can view to see that in fact I have a part 1/4 inch thick with holes in the right places. Let's go back and continue editing this part. I will right click on the new part, go to edit part. I'm back where I was a moment ago. Notice it has made the other part, the bearing, transparent once again. And I'm going to add a feature which is a cylindrical hole. It's actually a boss with a hole in it that is running vertically. And I want it to be centered in the part. Let's create a reference plane. So I'll go to Features, Reference Geometry, Plane, and I will add a reference plane. Now if I want a centered plane between two other planes, the first reference could be the top plane and the bottom plane, and in fact there it is. It's a nice shorthand way of creating a plane that bisects two planes. They have to be parallel for this to work. So I'm done with that. If I want to make it appear larger, I'm not actually editing anything here, but I'm making the plane look a little bit bigger for my purposes. So here I am with a plane. I can now add a sketch to this plane, which is what I'm going to do. If I view it from the top, you can see that it is oriented such it's at parallel to the top surface, of course. Let's go ahead and add a sketch, and then sketch again. The plane was already selected. Let's convert some more entities. Now I'm working in the plane that bisects the part, so that's where the sketch will show up. The first entity I'm going to convert is the vertex which represents this plane. There's a couple of different ways I could do it. I'll show the easier one in this case. I'll do Convert Entities, click on this leading edge, click on OK, and notice that a line shows up that is in the new plane but is coincident with or at the same point relative to that plane as this vertex that I had clicked on. Notice also that the plane itself is no longer visible. I will go up here to my visibility settings and turn on the plane visibility. That's the upper left one here. Click away from it. Did I turn it on here? Yep. And there are the planes, all of the planes that are in this part, including planes, by the way, that were in the original part, the bearing. So now I have that plane showing. You can turn it off again by going up to visibility and unclicking the plane icon. Let's go ahead and create a circular feature. I'm not going to have it relate to anything quite yet. I'll draw a circular feature. Not giving it even a diameter yet, but I'm going to do that right now. I go into Smart Dimension. I have a shortcut D. You can add that if you like. I'm going to make it 12. I don't want it inches. I want it 12 millimeters. Notice you can force units. So I make it 12 millimeters. There it is. And I'm good with that. The next dimension I want to add is I want to dimension it from the front surface, or that line that I had created. I'm going to put it out 0.5 inches. So it'll move a little bit. I'm good there. And last but not least, I'm out of dimension mode. I'm going to make this collinear, if you will, with the center of that line. Notice there's a center mark. If I click on it, and I can do, I'm going to wrestle with my microphone here. I'll do shift, click on the second part, which is the center of the circle. I'm going to make them horizontal, which moves it into a position. So now that circle is fully defined. It has a diameter and a location. Let's continue with drawing now. I'm going to offset that circle. Remember, this is the hole that I want. I'm going to want some wall thickness around it. So I'm going to offset entities, click on the circle, and give it, say 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch of offset. So here I am with a circle that represents a wall thickness of the part that I'm creating, this boss with the circular hole. Let's continue on. I'm going to draw a line from this corner. Now my goal, I'm going to eventually make a tangent to this circle. There are some automation things that will happen. Personally, I prefer not to use the automation because sometimes the automation doesn't really help. So I click in a place that nothing has, no gridding, no constraining, no snapping has occurred. Then I double click to finish that line. I'm still in line mode. I'm going to draw a line from, let me get to it here, from that point. Again, not snapping to anything special, just to the circle. That's the only snap. I must snap to the circle. I'm done with that. I press escape. Now I'm out of line mode. Let's go ahead and make these lines tangent to the circle. So I'll click on, I'll use add relation. Oop, I want to add relation, line to circle, and I'll make them tangent. Do that once. Add another relation, this line to the same circle. I see that I have 3 entities here. They're leftovers. This is a good chance to see how to clear this. I'll right click and clear all selections. Now nothing is selected. I'll click on the line, the circle, and tangent again. And now I have my 2 lines tangent to the circle. You might think that I'm done, that I could go ahead and do my extruding, but in fact I have an extra unwanted line here. See if you can see it. I go up to trim entities. I'm going to use power trim, which means I start in an open area. I'll click and drag. Now the extra line is gone. I will accept that change, and now we're ready to do some extruding. I'm not in extrude mode. In fact, I just created a sketch. So let's go ahead and click on extrude boss base. That sketch was already selected. Now, right now, it's extruding up, blind by 1/4 inch. Well, it's almost correct, except I want it centered on that plane, not offset. So I will click on mid plane, which will bring it down into a central position, extruding equally up and down from that plane. 1/4 inch is what I want. Let's make it 0.375. When I press enter, you'll preview it, and sure enough, when I click on OK, there's my finished part. If I click on finish edit, here is my part almost ready to use. I think the only thing I want to do now is to change the color. So I'm going to right click on the part, and this time I'm going to open the part. This will bring it up in its own window. You don't have to do it here, but I find it handy. I'm going to right click on the bracket, click on the appearances and simple bracket, and let's change the color to something a little more obvious that it's a new part. How about an orange? That looks, maybe a green. I like green better. Okay, there we go. I like green. Click on OK, and now when I go back to my assembly, it will update it, and there it is. It's a new bracket with a 12 millimeter diameter hole, positioned accordingly, ready for mounting.